In the late 1990s, investors didn't lose $2 trillion because they were stupid. They lost it because they were confident. Confident that profits no longer mattered. Confident that clicks were cash. That belief didn't just crash the market, it rewired how tech bubbles still form today. Watch closely. It's the mid-1990s. The internet is brand new. Dial-up is screaming through phone lines, and suddenly, everything is going online. Email, shopping, news, even dog food. Wall Street smells opportunity. Venture capital floods Silicon Valley. Startups with no revenue, no profits, sometimes no product, are ringing the opening bell on the Nasdaq. The stock market turns into a launchpad. CNBC anchors sound like evangelists. Founders in hoodies become overnight celebrities. And anyone who isn't investing feels like an idiot. The joke at the time was, we're not sure what this company does, but it has a website. And somehow, that was enough. For years, Wall Street wrapped the dot-com crash in a neat, comfortable explanation. Too much hype, too many startups, too many investors who didn't know what they were doing. The story goes like this. The internet was overhyped. Money chased buzzwords instead of fundamentals. Companies with no profits and sometimes no product went public too fast. Eventually, reality showed up. When earnings failed to appear, the bubble popped. Painful but necessary. End of story. Pets.com became the punchline. The sock puppet became a warning label. Business schools turned the crash into a morality tale about speculation, greed, and amateur investors learning an expensive lesson. Except that explanation doesn't survive scrutiny, because the biggest money in the dot-com boom wasn't coming from clueless day traders clicking buy from their bedrooms. It was coming from pension funds, blue-chip banks, insurance giants, and professional fund managers. The same institutions trusted to manage retirement money and spot risk early. And if this was really just about bad companies, the numbers don't add up. Why did Amazon lose more than 90% of its value? Why did Cisco, one of the most profitable, dominant tech companies on Earth, get absolutely crushed? A few ridiculous startups don't erase trillions of dollars. Something deeper was quietly building pressure beneath the market, and almost no one wanted to admit it. This wasn't a random collapse. The market was pushed, pressured, and positioned until something finally snapped. What actually fueled the dot-com bubble wasn't innovation, it was incentives. Wall Street didn't need these companies to make money. They needed them to go public, and to go public fast. Investment banks rushed startups to IPO before the numbers mattered, because the moment a company listed, the fees hit the balance sheet. Profitability could wait, fees couldn't. Analysts played their role perfectly. Strong buy ratings were handed out like candy, even when internal emails told a very different story. Publicly, the companies were revolutionary. Privately, many were jokes. But criticizing a potential client meant losing the investment banking relationship. Praise it and millions flowed in. The choice wasn't hard. The fees were enormous. Underwriters were pulling in hundreds of millions just for opening the casino doors. So a new rule quietly replaced the old one. Growth now, profits later, maybe never. Venture capital followed the same logic. Founders followed the money. Media followed the hype. And regulators hesitated, worried that asking hard questions might slow innovation or pop the party too early. Valuation stopped being about businesses and started being about narratives. Page views replaced earnings. First mover advantage replaced cash flow. One joke at the time captured it perfectly. EBITDA now stood for earnings before imagination dies totally anyway. Meanwhile, the warning signs were already flashing. Interest rates were climbing, capital was tightening, and behind the curtain, many companies were burning cash faster than anyone wanted to admit. This wasn't ignorance, it was willful blindness. And once the money slowed down, the illusion didn't crack, it collapsed. The collapse didn't arrive like a lightning strike. It crept in, slowly, quietly, disguised as temporary noise. It began with greed. Easy money rewarded speed, not discipline. Startups burned cash to buy users, not to build durable businesses. Marketing budgets exploded. Fundamentals shrank. As long as stock prices kept climbing, nobody wanted to interrupt the party or be the first to admit the music was getting quieter. Then the warning signs appeared. The Federal Reserve raised interest rates. Capital became more expensive. Suddenly, the fantasy of growth at all costs had to explain the costs. Earnings reports started rolling in, and they were ugly. Missed targets, expanding losses, business models that only worked if money stayed free forever. Losses piled up, cash runways shortened, but instead of panic, the market chose denial. Analysts softened the language. CEOs promised profitability was just 1 quarter away. Stocks dipped, bounced, and convinced investors the worst had already passed. It hadn't. Confidence finally broke. IPOs froze almost overnight. Venture funding evaporated. Stocks that once slipped 5% a day started falling 20% before lunch. Margin calls forced liquidation. Forced selling triggered more selling. Liquidity vanished when it was needed most. What began as a valuation problem turned into a trust collapse. The Nasdaq didn't decline. It cascaded. The most uncomfortable truth, many investors saw it coming. They just believed they'd get out before everyone else. Almost none of them did. March 2000. The Nasdaq hits 5,048 points, its absolute peak. Champagne is popping. Tech CEOs are doing victory laps on television. The future looks inevitable. Then, almost immediately, the air comes out. In just days, stocks start sliding. Not crashing, slipping. That makes it worse. Investors hesitate. They wait. They tell themselves this is healthy, a pullback, a buying opportunity. But behind the scenes, companies are running out of cash, banks are tightening credit, and insiders are quietly selling. The peak doesn't feel like a disaster, it feels like a pause, and that's what makes it deadly. What followed didn't just destroy companies, it rewrote who survived tech. When the dust finally settled, the damage ran far deeper than any stock chart could show. More than $2 trillion in market value had vanished. Thousands of startups disappeared almost overnight. Office lights went dark, and millions of employees watched stock options, once treated like lottery tickets, turn into worthless souvenirs. But the real impact wasn't the companies that died. It was the behavior that survived. The crash didn't kill technology, it selected it. The firms that lived, Amazon, eBay, and a small handful of others, didn't survive because they were the loudest or most hyped. They survived because they could endure. They cut ruthlessly. They built infrastructure. They obsessed over logistics, margins, and cash flow, while everyone else chased clicks and headlines. And investors? Many learned the wrong lesson. Instead of questioning narratives, they simply waited for the next one. Social media, mobile, crypto, AI, different buzzwords, same psychology, same promise that this time is different. Here's the harsh truth. Most people didn't lose money because they believed in technology. They lost money because they believed markets only go up and that someone smarter would warn them before it was too late. No one did. The dot-com bubble wasn't a mistake, it was a rehearsal, a reminder that markets don't crash because technology fails. They crash because stories outrun reality. Every bubble sounds smart while you're inside it. Every crash looks obvious afterward. And the most dangerous moment isn't the collapse, it's the peak, when everyone feels safe. The real lesson isn't don't invest in tech, it's this: when profits stop mattering, risk is already hiding in plain sight. Because somewhere right now, another narrative is forming. Different buzzwords, same confidence, same promise. And next time, the number won't be $2 trillion. If you enjoyed this video, hit like and subscribe for more cool stuff they don't teach you at school.